Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how to create unit tests in C# using NUnit. So let's get started. You can find the source code of this tutorial on GitHub. I will put a link in the description of the video. I have some sample code here that currently is not being covered by any unit tests. So before we are going to start writing unit tests, let's quickly go over the code that we have. The code is a bank application. We have a bank account. This code has two constructors. One of them will initialize the balance on 0, and the other one you can give it whatever starting balance that you want. We have one property that returns the current balance, and then we have a method to add any amount that you want to your balance. We have another method to add any amount that withdraw any amount that you want from your balance. And then we also have another method to transfer the funds from this account to any other account, and you can also choose whatever amount that you want to transfer it. So the first thing you're going to do when you want to unit test your project is actually create the unit test project itself. So let's go to add a new project. For me it shows up in my recent project templates, but if it doesn't show up you can just type NUnit in here and you can choose NUnit Core or NUnit in the .NET Core or .NET Framework. I'm going to choose .NET Core because this suits me better, but you can also do it in .NET Framework if you need to. The code will be exactly the same. So let's go to next. I'm going to give it a slightly different name than the default one. Bank and unit tests. Then I'm going to create it. It shouldn't take long, and there we have it. That's our first unit test. We can test it by running all tests in view. Another way is to right-click the test that you want and then do run tests. And you can see that the first test that we have, test 1, passes because we specified it to pass. We can also make it fail. If we now run it again, it will fail the test. And that's the first failure. In this tutorial, we are not going to use the setup methods, at least not now. So we're going to remove it. We are going to rename this to bank tests, or maybe bank account tests. Let's rename it. Let's give it the same class name. Then we're going to change the name of the methods in a bit, but what we're going to do first is add a reference to the original bank project. So project reference, select bank. It will update the dependencies, and there we have it. We don't need this. And now let's go quickly and see in the bank accounts what actually are we going to test. Let's start out by testing the add method. So we have the add method that takes in any amount and it will update the balance. So what we can do is test it by adding whatever amount and then checking if the balance actually updated. So I'm going to name my methods accordingly, adding funds, updates, balance, as this would make sense, and this is actually what we want. Now, in unit testing, you most likely are going to see these things. So the first is arrange, then we have a act, and the last step is going to be asserting. So what do we need to do in the arrange step is getting all of the things ready and set up for the test. So in this case, we only need an instance of a bank account. So let's make it a new account, a new bank account actually. Let's import the namespace using bank. And now we can use the constructor to give it whatever starting balance that we want, in this case 1000. The next step, the act part, we are going to do what we said we are going to do, and that's adding funds. So account.add, and now whatever amount we want, in this case, let's make it 500 to make it a bit more clear. So that's the acting part. And now we need to do the final step, and we need to assert that adding 500 to this account will result in 1500. So you can use that by using the assert class and then just saying are equal, and then whatever we expect is going to be the first parameter. So 1500 in this case, and then the second one is going to be the current balance after adding 500. So let's try it by doing the run tests. You will be able to see it here, and adding funds updates balance, and this one passes. So that means it's correct. So with the same idea, we can now do the same for withdrawing. So let's go back. I'm going to be very, very lazy and just copy and paste this. I'm going to change it to withdrawing. Withdrawing funds updates the balance, which is what we want. Withdraw it, and let's withdraw 500, and this will result in our balance being at 500. So let's see if that is actually the case. Yep, indeed, withdrawing 500 from our bank account results in 500. Now we have one final method, transfer funds to another account. So once again, going to be lazy, copy and paste it. Transferring funds updates both accounts. Let's see. We need a second account, which is going to be the other account. It doesn't have any money, and what we're going to do is transfer the funds from this account with 1000 to the other account. And we are going to transfer 500. So now both accounts will have 500. So we can verify that by running this test. And both should have 500 in their balance. And as you can see, we only ran this test and it passed. So that's great. But we only tested the happy paths, where we put in parameters that are correct and make sense. But you can also put in negative amounts, adding negative amounts, withdrawing negative amounts, or withdrawing more than your current balance, and transferring funds to non-existing accounts being null. So we also need to test those cases. So let's do that for adding funds. So I'm going to be lazy, I copied that one, pasted it, adding negative funds, and this doesn't update the balance, but instead it throws. So what we're going to do now is the act and the assert part is going to be combined into one statement. So just to make it sure, I'm going to put that there so it's clear that it's doing both things. So we have the account at. If I put it just there, so let's just try it. If I put -500 there, what will happen? We have one failure saying we got a system argument out of range exception with that the parameter amount is invalid, which is actually what we want. But this makes our unit test fail, and we don't want it to fail. We want to verify that it actually throws this exception, because adding the amount here with a negative amount, we actually throw this exception ourselves. So you can use the assert class for this, and instead of asserting it's equal, you can assert that it throws any exception that you want. So, and in this case, I need to add a using to the system to make it a little bit more easier. So I have IntelliSense, and now I can type arguments out of range exception. And we basically, so this takes in a test delegate, which is basically going to be a lambda expression saying account at -500. So if we try this now, it will basically be green, because we now verified that this method passing in a negative amount will actually throw an exception of this type. So we can now be very lazy again and copy and paste this one and saying withdrawing negative funds throws exception. Let's see if that works. So let's run this. If we withdraw a negative amount, yep, indeed, it will pass. And then we had one more thing, when you withdraw more than your actual balance. So I'm going to paste it once again. I'm going to withdraw 2,000, but I only have 1,000 in my account. So that should also fail. Withdrawing more than balance throws. So let's see. Let's just run all of them in this case because it didn't show up in time. And indeed, all of my tests currently pass. And now we only have one more thing to do. And that is checking if we transfer to a non-existing account. Transfer to non-existing account throws. So transfer funds to, and then null, and this should throw, but this throws a different exception type, argument null exception. So let's copy and paste that in here, save it, and let's run all the tests. Okay, so that's one thing. Now you can see that in all of the test cases, we arranged and created a new bank account with 1,000 in it. And this is actually where the setup method comes in handy. You can create a method, a public void. You can name it whatever you want. You just have to put a setup attribute in there, and this will actually run the codes before every test case. So before this one, it will execute this one, it will execute the setup again, and so on. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste it, the arrange part, create a private bank account, and then set the account to this one during the setup. And now I can remove all of those account creation statements. I only can remove one of those here, but I can remove both of them. So here we still need the other account, obviously, but the other ones are all being created during the setup of this. So this avoids to have duplicated codes being in the arrange everywhere. So that's very, very handy. Now, the unit tests in our case is now going to be a technical specification of what the bank account is doing and what it's capable of. And this will prevent anyone in the future from introducing bugs into the bank account. Let's just pretend that one of the developers on your team thinks it's a good idea to always return the balance of 0. In this case, let's see what happens if we now run the unit tests, which probably is going to be an automatic process that will alert everyone in the team if something is broken before it gets to production. And then in this case, it will fail 3 out of the 7 tests, saying it's expecting different results, but it's getting 0 everywhere. So that doesn't really make sense. And you can basically change whatever line you want in here, and it will all fail. So let's pretend adding now reduces the amount. This will obviously fail 2 out of the 7 tests. Transferring the funds now all of a sudden got a weird result. Adding funds also didn't get the expected result, and I can quickly see here what I'm expecting and what is failing. And I can just put a breakpoint here, debug the test, and then I can see, oh, what actually is going on here. Adding that. So we have a bank account. Let's see, we have a balance of 1,000 and we are going to add 500, which is fine. So we step over that, and now, oh, now it's all of a sudden 500. Meaning that this one, you can pretty easy find out that the balance got updated and it's now incorrect. So as you can see here, it's saying expected and it fails. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you. I'm going to quickly revert it and show that if we revert everything, everything is working once again. Yep, and now everything is green and production will be bug-free if you follow these guidelines. And now nobody can break the bank account's code in the future unless they modify the unit test for them. But this will add another layer of security on top of your own code. And that's the magic of unit tests. So I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, I would hope you will like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It means a lot to me. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.